Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Hey, this is another episode of UFO Garage.
I'm Ben.
And I'm Joe, and this is where we talk about UFOs, aliens, and all things weird. Of course. What's up, man? How are you doing today?
I'm doing swell. I'm doing well and swell.
Well and swell at the same time, dude.
Hell
I mean,
yeah,
that's a pretty good way to feel well and swell.
What's up?
I like it, man.
Got my tank top on, dude. Feeling breezy.
That is a pretty breezy looking tank top. What is that? Mitch's
surf shop from La Jolla Beach in St. Diego.
St. Diego.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
What does it mean?
What, La Jolla?
No,
St. Diego?
St. Diego.
It's either a whale's vagina or a wooden ship that scholars lost the translation years ago.
Oh, man, that's great. That's great. Well, dude, so it's going to be pretty awesome today. We've got a pretty cool guest with us. She sent us our book, Erin Montgomery. She is the writer of Dirty Little Secrets. This is her book. Man, I read this, and all I can really say is wow. I thought it was absolutely fascinating.
Yeah.
It was really good. So she's on the show with us today, and I'm super excited to have her with us. Yeah. Erin, how are you doing today?
I am doing all right. End of the day.
Oh, yeah. Nothing better than the end of the day. Yep, I like that. Well, Erin, I got to say, I'm a huge fan of your book. I loved it. I absolutely loved it. I mean, usually when you hear about, experiences and people's stories, it seems to have like a focal point. And while your book did obviously have a focal point, there's just so much to it. I mean, we're talking, the abduction, the simple encounters, to, missing time, talking about dimensions shifting, and whoa. I mean, it's got everything. It was just absolutely fascinating. I couldn't put it down. So thank you so much for sending that to us.
Well, I'm glad you enjoyed it. Yeah, I guess with that book, the focal point really is my mental process and coming to terms
right
with what I experience on a daily basis.
Yeah, it definitely was. And while I was reading it, like, it almost, I wouldn't say it gave me anxiety, but it really, like, kind of put me in your shoes while I was reading it. Like, I mean, there's just stories in there that I couldn't even imagine almost,
Mm. There's some, especially at the beginning of the book, as I'm dealing more with the traumatic experiences and, working through those things on paper, even writing it, I had to stop. Like, okay, I'm going to write about something else for a little bit, and then I'm going to come back to the story. And I figured that putting that actual process into the book itself would help demonstrate how difficult it was for me to actually go through the process of writing this stuff out.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. And I love that. I love that you put that in the book, because as you're reading along, she does. It's like I'm having anxiety just trying to continue on to the next page.
Right.
Like it's very like, it's almost like she's talking to you directly. It's so good. So I mean, Erin, we don't want to give away the book or anything, but I mean, I would love to just get into your story and let the people know a little bit about you, and give them some background, and then after that, then I would like to kind of maybe start at like your first recollection and or memory of why this started taking place. Why this started taking place is a really good question, and it goes back multiple generations. I can't say when necessarily it started, but I know that my grandfather had experiences. My father and my aunt have both had experiences. My father talks less about it and only, ships in the sky type of thing, but my aunt would talk about a particular UFO that she would see between where we were living, because I was living with her at the time, and where she was working, and this ship that was parked there for a long time, and she would see the beings on the ground moving around, and it was just crazy talk to me at the time, because I didn't have any memories. I was 20 when that was happening. But then me, my brother, my cousins, her children have had experiences and abilities, psychic type abilities, and now our children have those encounters and abilities as well. So this is, it's not a simple, where does this start? I don't know when it wasn't there,
Right.
and it goes back generations. My earliest memory of contact is about 4 years old, and that just came to me the other day.
Wow.
Just a few months ago, I had this, and it's just a little flash. It's not more than maybe like 3 seconds of memory. And I was sitting on the floor with other children in a ship. The room was very white and sterile, and we were playing with blocks in some strange fashion. They were like, it was almost like catch, but it was in slow motion. So we were, like slowly lobbing them with our minds, I think. I'm not exactly sure. And I turned towards the doorway, and a boy had walked by. He was a little bit older, and he pointed at me and said, like, we're going to know each other later, or something like that. And that was it. And boop, that was all the memory I had. I don't remember seeing any beings, but I know I was on a ship. So yeah, that's the earliest.
Wow. I mean, so just in that little bit, I mean, there's so much to unpack already. And that's what I loved about this book, was like every sentence, it was like you're just opening a new box of like information, or like, just another part of the story. It never had a dull moment, because it was just I don't know, it was for lack of a better term, I'm not saying crazy in like a negative term, it was just like in my mind I was like, wow, this is just fascinating. I mean, so we're talking about this family lineage. I mean, your family has reports of this happening to them. Do you know how far back in your family this goes? Is it just to your like grandfather and grandmother?
That is as far as I can go, because that is all the stories that I have.
Right.
I really wish I had more, but there isn't anything else, historically.
Yeah. And that's one of the, it's like in this field, I mean, that's kind of one of the theories, is that, this is something that takes place within the family.
Yeah,
it follows a family bloodline. Do you think that has something to do with your genetics or your blood type or something like that they just were naturally drawn to? Do you have any idea?
Well, I have some speculations,
right?
For sure. I mean, my blood type is O, but I don't know if it's negative or positive. I need to get that figured out.
Yeah.
And I know that that's probably an important thing to do. I have heard rumors about the combination of Irish and Native American DNA being important, and I've got that. So I don't know if that has anything to do with it. I don't know.
That's interesting.
But I know that the DNA is important, and I know that they manipulate it, and I know that they continue the manipulation through the generations.
Right. And that's kind of important later on in the story, but then you get to the point to where you're in a ship and you're in a room with these other children, and it kind of makes me think of like in Stranger Things, how they just have like a room of kids.
Yeah.
And it's almost like they're not doing anything to them at that point. It's just kind of a room of kids playing with toys, and that's kind of what popped up in my head. Maybe it's or
in the Matrix, that room where the Neo walks in and there's all these gifted children that are kind of manipulating like a spoon or things like that.
Do you think like maybe
there's even the blocks in that scene? There's a kids playing with blocks that is like exactly like what I remember.
That's right.
Yes.
Weird. Yeah.
Yes.
I forgot about that.
Like. Do you maybe have, I guess we could speculate all day, but do you have an inkling on maybe like why all these kids were there? Like, does it kind of almost reminds me too of like the part in Star Wars where all the little kids are training,
the younglings.
Yeah. Where all the Jedi are training, and it's like the children, and it's like, I don't know. It's there's a lot to this, but I was just curious about your idea on like, maybe you know why you were there.
I think that there are like groups of kids that are all taken together, and I have contact with some of them.
Wow.
And I know, like, that little boy that I saw that walked by, I know him.
Wow.
What?
And I know several other people that he knew on ship. I know them now too, and so that tells me that I knew them then as well. Wow. So yes, and I think that we are just taken in bunches like that, and kept kind of in almost a classroom.
So
as we, grade levels or whatever, as we go through the stages of contact and whatever it is program that we've been subscribed to.
Right. So did you later in life meet these people, or how did you come to know these children that you saw when you were a kid and know them as an adult? Was it like in the same geographic location?
No, it's all been through like experiencer support groups. That's how I meet these people.
Right.
The first one that I met that I knew I had seen on ship, and that was as an adult, was through the CERO. That what is it? I don't even remember what the letters stand for, but it's Yvonne Smith's group that she hosts in California. Yeah. I'm not in California, but I work with her, so therefore I kind of got adopted into the group. And through that, I met a man, and I saw him on ship one night, and I only knew him from his Facebook picture. Like, hey, I saw you on ship, and I sent him a message, and we talked about it, and he said, okay, that's interesting. My feet are dirty, and that is always an indication that I've been taken. So, out walking.
Wow.
What?
Without your shoes on. So it was corroborated. I really did see him on ship that night.
Wow.
And years later, he decided he wanted to start his own support group and brought me in immediately. And through that group, I have met several other people that I know that I have been on ship with. So, and they know he was, it's almost like this guy has gathered up that class. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's almost like a high school reunion.
Wow.
Thing going on.
So, wow. What an awesome thing to have, I would guess. I mean, I don't know from experience, no pun intended, but like, to have other people corroborate your story and be able to talk to them about, hey, yeah, I saw you literally last night. Has that been kind of, I'd imagine it'd be pretty healing for all of you.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, I mean, I know that there's probably plenty of listeners that are, interested and have been through this type of stuff. Just really quick, while we're on the topic, you mentioned a group. Is there all kinds of groups in different? Is there like one main thing somebody could Google and try to find something in their area?
Absolutely, they can try. I find a lot of the groups on Facebook. There's several of them that I participate in. Chosen, ET Contact. I can't even remember the full name, but that is the group that I just mentioned. And then there's Experiencers Meet, which is another one. So if you're going to be doing a search, look up the words experiencer, look up the words contactee, abductee, and support group, and I am sure that a whole bunch of stuff is going to come out.
Wow.
You're going to find the support that you, and that's absolutely key for people that are going through these things.
Absolutely.
So I want to know, to unpack a lot of this stuff. I think this is kind of like the core of it right here. Is when for you was it obvious that something was going on? Because a lot of times we hear stories about like, yeah, this stuff was happening to me while I was a child. I didn't even realize it till I was 33 years old or something like that. Was there a moment for you, like an aha moment, like, oh my goodness, this is actually happening to me now?
Yes, I was 19, and so that's a little earlier than a lot of experiencers. It is around 30s that it starts coming out. So I was around 19 years old. I was in college. I happened to see that there was going to be an interview, or not an interview, but a lecture by a guy talking about UFOs, and I thought that'd be kind of cool to go watch, so I did. It was Stanton Friedman. I had no idea at the time who he was, And I left that lecture that night absolutely terrified, and I had no reason to be terrified. And my boyfriend and I at the time had walked from our apartment to this thing, and we get out and it's dark, and now I'm walking home in the dark and completely afraid to look at the sky.
Oh, wow.
I could not look at the sky. Just kept my eyes focused on the ground. I couldn't do it. That night there was a bright light through the window and a big, like, I don't know if it blew up a thing on the electrical lines or whatever, one of those things, the transformer blew up as well, but the light was shining in the room first, so I knew that something was going on. And it was at that point that it kind of all came together. Like, I really think that I have been suffering from this, and I didn't really have too many indications before that, except for some very strange things that happened to me from childhood up through my teenage years, culminating in that, hey, pay attention, we're trying to get you, wake up, and it was at that time that memories started coming back, and I would have experiences, and as the years went on, more and more contact that I was aware of, sometimes while awake, and yeah, it kind of blossomed from there. Wow. But it really was early in comparison to other experiencers.
Wow. Yeah, it definitely seems like it. Did you know about like your family's experience before or after you had this kind of aha moment? Was it after you started digging and then found out about it?
It was after. I was pregnant with my first child, so I was 20 years old, so this was right after that lecture. I'm living with my grandmother and my aunt because I didn't know what else to do, and my grandmother and I would watch, what is it, UFO Files, or show that was on all the time in the mid 90s, and we loved it. And then she would tell me stories about my grandfather, well, one main one, and that was, he was courting her. They were in their teens, and it would have been 1930s, something like that, in a very small town in Texas where there's no street lights. And he was walking home in the dark, very sick, by the way. He had tonsillitis, bronchitis, something like that, and just, nasty respiratory infection going on. And a light came down from the sky, shined upon him, and he ran, because what is that? And he runs all the way home, runs in the bedroom, dives under the covers, but the light is still coming through the windows. He falls asleep, wakes up in the morning, and he's completely cured.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, and so I knew that story at 20.
Wow, that's great. That's great. So, I mean, this is something kind of interesting, I guess, that still happened when you were young. You had talked about, we always hear about missing time, right? But you have an interesting story about additional time.
Oh yes, that was in the middle of what is known as high strangeness. So many things were happening to me at this time. I think I was 16, and I was dating a guy who was kind of far out of town. I was at his house. My father said be home at this particular time. Time got away from me. Like, oh crap, I'm late. So I get in the car and I drive home, and somehow I got home 15 minutes earlier than when I left my boyfriend's house. So I don't have any memories of the drive. I just know that I got home, and I got home early, and I was like, that's crazy, but yes, I'm not in trouble. I was so excited.
Somebody was looking out for you.
Yeah, absolutely. I do have very strange dreams about the car, being in a car that is taken up into the sky, and so I suspect that I just wonder what happened, and I haven't gone and like had any regressions. I don't remember anything from that time, but I really suspect something happened.
Wow,
something had to happen.
Yeah,
time.
Yeah, definitely. Because I mean, you always hear stories about the missing time, or people being taken and then put back, but they're not like put back in the same spot. That's really interesting for it's like, oh yeah, we can not only put you back in the wrong spot, but we can also put you back at the wrong time.
Right. Exactly. They're not as precise as they would like to be, I don't think.
It's kind of like, for lack of a better word, a little humanizing to know that that these entities are capable of mistakes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. They do make little mistakes, and it really does bring that characteristic of they're not robots. These are creatures with flaws, and they're just trying to get along just like we are.
Interesting.
However, their agendas are different than ours.
Yeah, that's a really cool thought. I mean, I love that idea that some of these creatures or entities are bioelectric kind of robot, half a hybrid, alive and robotic. But yeah, it kind of just opens your perspective of, I don't know, maybe how many different types or species or different types of things that are out there. And like, yeah, maybe there have been robotic type biological beings, but this is definitely some witness proof and testimony. I mean, you're not the only one that's kind of that is witnessed little mistakes and stuff like this.
Right.
Yeah. So that's super interesting. Yeah. So speaking of species, I know I brought it up, but on your cover, if we could talk about your cover really quick. What I'm seeing is a ship in the sky, and then a beam of light coming down to a gray type alien. Is that something that's special to you? Is that a specific entity that you've met, or can you maybe talk about that a little bit?
That I did that painting back in, I think it was around 2002, and I was really starting to uncover things and have memories, upon waking, not losing contact, if that makes any sense. It wasn't being completely drowned out in my memories. I had conscious contact, I guess you could say. Anyways, the painting there is a representation of my understanding and saying, okay, yes, this is happening.
Okay.
The being itself was it looks like she's wearing a dress, and I know that I've never seen a being like that. But I think, thinking back on it, the entity that comes to me most often feels like a female. She's been very comforting, and I think that was my way of expressing it at the time. And I may not have understood that while I was doing it, but
awesome.
Yeah, one thing that you had said that was super interesting was, talking about the experience, and you were trying to wrap your own head around the thought, but you had made the connection between a small child and a dog. If it pulls the dog's tail, this dog might react in a way you don't want it to, and you related it to us and how maybe we just don't understand how to interact with these things, and it leads to maybe a not so positive experience all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Lately, as I've been trying to, one of the difficult things about this is not having a language in which we can really express what we're going through. But as time goes by and I'm doing more shows and talking out loud about these things more and more, I've got really negative, scary experiences that I have had. They're horrible, awful things that have happened. And then I've had amazing, loving, just life-fulfilling, I don't know, I can't even describe it, experiences. And then I've had the ones that I was afraid. But the ones that I was afraid did not necessarily mean they were awful and bad and evil, so to speak.
Right.
They could have been very loving. I was just afraid. And those are the times that it can be, take a second, calm yourself down. You really need to be afraid right now. And through the processing of the traumas and the fears and everything, I think that because I have done those things, I'm just able to remember more, comprehend more, and communicate more than I could when I was little.
Right, definitely. Do you think that these experiences are by all the same type of entity or being, or do you think that they're completely different and that's why the experiences themselves are maybe different?
Yes, actually, I think that is very much the case. And there are some experiences I have where there's multiple types of beings.
Interesting.
Yeah, the most amazing feeling experience I had, I was
I had to have been about 27 because my youngest was 2. I was visiting my mother in Colorado. We were outside watching, I think it was the Leonid meteor shower, and I got that feeling like, oh, they're coming. It's kind of like a sinking, uncomfortable feeling in the body, which feels very much like anxiety, and it's like, oh crap, now I've got to go and protect myself. But that day I was determined to stay awake. Like, no, all right, I know you're coming. I know you're going to come for me, and I am going to stay up, and I'm going to see you come through that door.
Wow.
And I did, and I stayed awake. And it was funny. My brother's cat was pacing back and forth in front of the doorway. Like he was like protecting me or something. He just paced back and forth, back and forth.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it was like 3:30 or something around then when these creatures came in, and they were a gray type, the very thin body and arms and legs and the large head and the large eyes, but they were really small, maybe 3 feet.
Wow.
Tall. They were very small, and they moved in a very childlike fashion. And as soon as they entered the room, I was filled with this amazing feeling of unconditional love. Like, I don't know if I've ever been able to feel that again. And they just came in, and I was just overjoyed. And one of those beings actually crawled up on the bed with me, put his hand up on my chest, and told me that I would have a lump in 37, and I can never figure out what is 37. 37 years, 37 days, 37 moons. What is he talking about? However, at the age of 37, I did have a lump that in my breast that needed to be looked at. That ended up being benign and not a big deal, but it's almost like he gave me proof. Like, no, we're serious and we're real, and this is going to happen.
Wow. So, man, I kind of want to unpack that for a second. So you're 27 years old, and you decide, I'm going to stay awake, even though you felt this moment of dread or that sinking feeling you were talking about. And so are you the only one in the bedroom at this moment, or are you with another person that could have possibly witnessed this as well? Like, what was the scenario like?
I was alone, as far as I remember. My mother and the children were in her room, so I was all by myself. Yeah.
Right. So that it's almost like they knew you were going to be alone, and they were kind of giving you a heads up, like, "Hey, we're coming to visit tonight." That's what it kind of sounds like to me. Like maybe you had.
Yes. I mean, they didn't have to signal me and make me feel like they were coming.
Yeah. Yeah. So. Have you experienced like a side effect of almost clairvoyance since this started happening, or do you think it's literally them sending you messages, or have you experienced anything like that, being able to tell like, hey, something bad's gonna happen, or is it always just when you are visited?
I tend to have access to that kind of information at all times. Not saying that I'm constantly living in visions or anything, but if I want some information and I want to reach out and feel something, know something, I can do that. I do a lot of tarot readings. I've done, a lot of shamanic work with energy manipulation, and a lot of that has to do with visions and seeing things. And I think that, I don't know if it has to do with the genetic manipulation. I don't know if it has to do with the actual physical act of contact and communication with an alien race. I don't know what turns it on. But I think that most experiencers are going to be, in the very least, empathic. Most are going to be telepathic. Many are going to have the visions and like clairaudience and all of those things. And
yeah. And it's so strange too, because it's like most of the people, they're just so like, it's just very unexpected. Like, it's such an unexpected thing to happen. And even though like it may have been happening for a very long time. I mean, you look at, Eric Mitchell or Terry Lovelace, who's, as I understand, was a part in this book as well. I mean,
yes.
It's just one of those things where, this stuff seems to be happening to people. And it kind of fascinates me that it's like, I didn't know anything about this. I didn't ask for it. I didn't want it. And then come to find out, this has been happening to me for a very long time.
Right. Yes, it can be very shocking when you only have one instance in your mind. Okay, this happened this once. And, me being myself, if you were to tell me, man, I was abducted this one time, I'm like, right.
Yeah.
Just that one. No.
Yeah.
I've actually gotten to the point where if somebody sees a ship and tells me about it, I'm like,
Oh,
right.
Can you elaborate on that? Because me and Joe have both seen some pretty weird stuff, not only like by ourselves before we started this podcast, but we actually think we saw something very unusual in the sky in Sedona last year. So what you mean is like, if you've seen a craft, there's probably more to the story, or what do you mean by that?
That is exactly what I mean. They do not have to show themselves.
Yeah.
They do not have to allow anybody to know anything that's going on, whether that's in a ship, whether that's in your bedroom, whatever. They can allow you to know, or they can keep it quiet.
Right.
And so I think every time that they show something like that, it's for a purpose.
Right.
And I often think that it's us who have had experiences before that we are picking up those messages, whatever they may be.
Man, so do you think that there's like way more people out there that have had experiences that just don't even know it?
Absolutely. I think there are so many people that have had these experiences.
I kind of feel the same way. Like the more I talk to people like you, it almost seems like you would think that 80% of the population has probably had some sort of experience and just doesn't even know about it. Yeah. It's like these very like random occasions, or like you go see Stanton Friedman talk in college and all of a sudden it turns a key and just opens your mind to this whole epic novel of information you had no clue existed,
Yeah.
Right. I think there has to be that kind of key. But I also happen to think that there's a lot of things that are happening now that are turning the keys for a lot of people. And, there's banter about the idea of awakening and ascension, and it's bleeding out past just the, the woo-woo talk. It's a lot of people are experiencing this. And I'm finding it really interesting watching these people understand, like, oh my gosh, I've had contact. And I almost wonder if I had to go through this early and understand this early so that I could be here to help support those that are just now figuring it out.
Right. Yeah. I mean, to have somebody guide, have somebody to ask or answer questions is probably just as important as the awakening itself. It's like you don't want to have somebody wake up in a human body and not have somebody teach you how to, live or eat or walk and stuff. You die, right? So yeah, right. I agree with you. Like it does seem to be like that ascension talk, that idea has been really bleeding into mainstream. I've been seeing it a lot on TikTok. I'm on TikTok and I see like more, just everyday people talking about, hey, yeah, so I keep seeing all this awakening stuff. And since I started seeing this awakening stuff, I've started to like have really strange dreams and started seeing synchronicities in my life like every day. And I started seeing the clock at 11:11. And people don't really know what all that means. I think I've been interested in this stuff for so long. It's just like, well, duh, you've never heard of that? But, yeah. But like a lot of people are like, what? This shit's real. What's going on right now? So do you think we're kind of in 2020 is we're kind of entering some kind of dimension that we're kind of bleeding into a new reality or something?
Just a shifting of a mindset as a collective,
Absolutely. I think that's exactly what's going on. As a collective,
And obviously there's quite a bit of tension and dissension among the ranks. You know, the country feels like it's splitting apart. However, there is this other side of things, which is this love-based ascension. Let's work together. We've got other stuff to worry about, guys. Idea that is floating over, and I think that really it's passing from person to person to person. This is really a grassroots, like, energetic movement as people awaken and understand and come to terms, and then they start to spread it and talk, and I see it just spreading out in this beautiful love wave. I mean, that sounds goofy, but I'm seeing it, and I know that tides are about to turn.
Right. Yeah, I feel like it started a couple of years ago with like a veganism movement where you're like, hey, let's like, hey, we all live on this planet. Let's be nice and not like stop eating so many damn animals. Like, okay, yeah, I can't go fully into that. I love steak, but it's almost like it was a little too much information at first, and now it's more it's kind of on brand, and the marketing is right, I guess.
Yeah.
From that perspective, like the love thing, it sounds so corny at first, you know, if it's too far down that path, but as we kind of shift into this new reality that I think we're all experiencing, we're kind of a little bit more open to those concepts.
Right.
It's kind of cool.
Absolutely. And I think that, you know, a lot of people have struggled with the pandemic, and you know, oh my God, there's nothing I can do. I'm afraid to go out. I know so many people are not working, and there's financial troubles, and there's so much struggle, and yet, you know, I don't have answers for those people that are struggling so hard right now, but it is also an excellent opportunity to turn within and work on these things. And like, what else am I going to do? Let's get to the bottom of my childhood trauma. Let's turn to the counselors. Let's do something that will help us move forward in this time, and a lot of people are.
Yeah. Have you? Yeah, man, that's really powerful stuff. Yeah. So, have you ever received any kind of messages like this, or any kind of communication from the entities that you've encountered that could possibly relate to what's going on right now? Yeah, a lot of experiencers often come out of their experiences with a new perspective and kind of need to talk about it or spread the message. Have you experienced anything like that?
Not while I was on ship. The only thing I can think of is when I was 7 years old and I was allowed to look down at the planet through the window in a way, and just, you know, wow, that's pretty.
Whoa,
kind of thing. But that's the only thing I have, and this is something I actually go through in the book, is like, what is the agenda? Why are they here? What's going on?
Right.
And so from all of my friends that I have and myself, there are several very common themes. Number one, take care of the planet.
Yeah.
Take care of the planet. That comes through strongly for many of us, and that's where people turn to veganism, or they, you know, become animal rights activists. They do these things because they feel the need to protect the planet. You know, the environmentalists. I have a very good friend who's an environmentalist. That's what she does for a living, and she's also a contactee. So I kind of wonder if she was led in that direction on purpose.
Right.
And then there's a lot of us receive information about either natural disasters, catastrophes, nuclear war, very scary stuff. But I think that those are ways of saying, watch out, pay attention, let's not go this route because it could go that way.
Yeah. It could also, is it possible that could it also be specific to the person receiving the message?
You know, I never thought about that. It very well could be.
Yeah.
Yeah, you get a message of like a massive like tsunami or something, or tidal wave, and it's like, oh, well, I just happen to live on the coast.
Yeah.
That's probably good information to know.
Right.
Or, you know, like this fiery message, and it's like, oh, well, I live in California. That's probably obvious, right? You know, but yeah, maybe it is specific to certain people. Yeah. Definitely.
Any way to get their message across, and you know, whatever those messages are and whatever the agenda. My conclusion was, if they're telling us to love each other, take care of the planet, and, you know, don't cause war, all of those things are really really smart and things that we really need to take to heart as a planet anyway. So if that's the messages that they're giving us, then by all means, let's do it.
I totally agree. I wish the experience though wasn't so dang scary and intrusive,
right?
Like forceful, like, I mean, obviously nobody would. I mean, maybe I think I would elect to go on a ship for sure, but I mean, it's like the way that they do it sometimes, like they just take you to give you a cool message. I don't know. It doesn't.
But, you also say in the book that, like we were saying earlier, these guys aren't perfect. And is it possible that they're just learning new ways? I mean, you have a hilarious bit in there where they turn into the Golden Girls, and it's almost like they have a sense of humor, and they're working with you, trying to like make this an easier experience for you every time you're taken. They're learning how to interact with humans just as much as you're learning how to absorb this information that's happening or the situation.
Absolutely. If you think back to what happened with like Betty and Barney Hill and the just abject terror that they went through, and knowing that Barney's shoes were just scraped all to heck because he was dragged across the gravel as they carried him to the ship, the ripping of her clothes and all of these things, it is very violent and scary for them. I don't think that the encounters are as brutal as that. They've learned how to control our minds. They've learned how to keep us calm, to either hide things or plant information, in our minds in a more subtle and gentle way.
Yeah.
And I think that, this is like a study I want to do. I don't know how to do it, but to track those changes from early abduction experiences to present.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. It kind of makes me think of like, if you think of whales, right? Like back in the day, I mean, we would just go and just like murder a whale so we can get some lamp fluid or whatever, make some makeup or do whatever you needed to do. But like as time progressed, humans were like, holy crap, whales are extremely smart. They're almost like as smart as humans. Yeah, exactly. And so now we have this tendency to treat them differently when we encounter them in the wild, because of what we've learned. And so it would kind of make sense that, another species would come across us and, maybe just drag us, at first, and then start realizing over years and decades and centuries of doing this research, they're like, man, these guys are maybe kind of smart. They're a little sentient, like they have a purpose. Maybe we should start trying to treat them a little better or something, It's kind of what it reminds me of.
Let's work within the confines of their minds instead of destroying it. Let's enhance it and work with it.
Right. Yeah. Cool.
So I have an idea. So this might kind of come full circle with that question I think Joe asked you, Erin, is it that how many different species that you've come in contact with? I think this statement I'll say is like, what if some species are really good at interacting with humans and they have figured that out, and there are some aliens that come down and they don't know what they're doing yet, and it's almost like Earth is kind of like a stage website, or a sandbox place where you can go and just practice, or for new species to come down and like, hey, so I would suggest, okay, these guys they're kind of ape-like, but they can't kill you. Like, you're fine. You go practice on humans first, and then you could go to the more advanced civilizations and study them.
Yeah.
That would be interesting, and I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, so I guess the question would be like, is it your experience that you've witnessed multiple species?
I have. There was one of the most recent, I guess, and that's the clearest in my mind. I have experiences all the time, but not very many stick. And so there was one in October of 2018. I think it was October 27th. And it was so clear. I was asleep. The blankets were pulled off of me, which woke me up. That's like a common thing. They just like pull the blankets off. Like, oh,
rude.
And yes, exactly. My eyes pop open, and there's 3 beings in the room. 3 is very common. Often they're all 3 grays, but this time there was a gray type, there was this drippy brown guy. I don't know. He looked like a crayon that got hot. He was like melting. I don't know. I have never seen anything or heard anything about a creature that looks like this ever anywhere.
Whoa.
So if anybody knows anything about this kind of being, let me know.
Clam.
And then
you said like a clam? Is it
a crayon?
He's like
a melted crayon.
Oh, got it.
Yeah,
sorry.
Or a candle. Yeah, he was just like melted.
Sorry.
He reminded me of Zoidberg, I guess, on
love that show.
But thin. Yeah, but thin and skinny. But it looked like his mouth was melting off. I don't know. He was bizarre. But then there was also this very tall being with chalky white skin, very large eyes, very round head. And I knew him. I knew this being, and it's you. And I reached out my hand, and he took my hand, and he took me outside. So there were 3 different beings all in that one experience. And I don't know why. I don't know where they're from. I don't have any of that information.
Wow.
Boy, I would like to.
Dang. Yeah, sorry. I realized that we've already asked that question. I realized that's maybe the second time we've asked it. But
that's okay.
So I apologize for that.
that is the first time that I've heard of some, wax dripping type of being as well. I've never heard of that, and when I read that, I was like, oh, that's pretty interesting.
Zoidberg.
I don't know how I would react to that either. So you said to the pale chalky one, like, it's you, and like you recognized him, and you took his hand and he took you outside. During this happening, do you wake up with an initial fear, or do you wake up and everything's fine because they've done something to you to make it fine?
It depends on the experience. And I think it also depends on where I'm at. In the early experiences when I was just starting to come to terms with this, if I was woken up, I went immediately into fear. That time, however, I did not.
Okay.
And this was, I was already starting to write the book. I was already processing a lot of this stuff, and so I was fine. And actually, in the chapter where I describe what this happens, I was really surprised and wondered about myself. Like, wait, when did I switch sides here? When did this all of a sudden become okay?
Wow.
Because now I'm okay with it, and I don't know why.
Whew, man, that's a lot.
Yeah.
That's a lot. So I if it's something that you're willing to go into, this, you have a portion where we talk about, this hybrid situation, and you being abducted and used for this. Has that been like the main focus of your abductions that you know of, or is it just another small part to the whole story?
I think it is a fraction of the story. It is maybe a large fraction, how it's not everything. I know that the DNA is precious. I know that they are doing their best to create these children for, I have no idea what it means. I don't know what they're doing with these children. I know that the connection with their mothers is very important. Well, and the fathers. I know several men that have had encounters with their children. Their hybrid children. And I wish I understood what was going on. I do still have contact with the children, but that's only part of it. And it goes back to the 4-year-old me playing with the blocks, and then like a 10-year-old me who's being trained on how to manipulate gravity. Why did I need to learn that?
Whoa.
Right.
And boy, I wish I could still do it.
Yeah, and then even going to, I think it was 11 where, they took you and they checked you out to make sure maybe you were ready to go, for this hybrid, issue. And
that was right before my puberty. That was right before my menses started. So yeah.
What?
Wow. So they knew it. And that's just like I'm at a loss for words almost on like just how you think about this whole thing, and it's like, oh yeah, they're alien. Maybe they're they make mistakes too, But then also at the same time to know, be so advanced to the point to where they would know, right before a female hits puberty, to just know and be able to check that, like, without having any sort of, I don't know, like. I guess if they're abducting you and you didn't know about it, you probably visited them more than you visited an actual doctor.
Whoa.
I probably did.
Yeah.
And this right here could be why there's implants being tracked. This could be gathering that biological information and transmitting it back to, who knows where.
Wow.
If I was chipped, so to speak, when I was 7, then maybe that information was relayed to them that it was time.
Whoa.
And of course, I don't know if I had any experiences between the two. I would assume I did.
Right. So our friend Lorian calls them space babies. Do you have an idea of, like, maybe how many space babies are out there?
A whole bunch.
A whole bunch.
Yeah, I remember several of them in specific. I would assume that there's more. I mean, it's almost, this is going to sound awful, but it's almost like a roach. If you see a roach, you know that there's 1,000 more in the walls or whatever, So I think that once you have a memory, there's going to be several of them that you don't have. And I have specific memories of the birth of several of them, and I have, I don't know, just information in my head. It's hard to explain these things, but there's, like, I see them. I've drawn several of them. I've done a couple of paintings, and it's interesting. I get kind of confused because I have my own children, and I could. Like, how am I okay with not being with these other children? How am I okay with not raising them? And I know that some contactees, the females, are not okay with that, but I'm okay with it. I don't understand my psychology when it comes to that.
Right.
I do get to bond with them. I do get to spend time with them. But I don't know. I'm just that little part of their lives.
Yeah. Maybe it's like, do you sometimes get a sense that it's for a greater cause? Maybe that is a reason enough to not feel as attached or concerned.
That very well could be. It could be that on some level I understand this is, I'm not going to say like a contract, but maybe on some level I understand what's going on and what the purpose is.
Right.
And I'm okay with it.
And also that it's just completely out of your hands anyways.
Mm-hmm.
That is true.
Yeah.
That is true.
And also, sorry.
No, you're good. You're good. I mean, I was just thinking about, Melinda Leslie and, like, her stories. And, like, there's always, like, that one point in her story where it kind of chokes her up a little bit, and it's just, you can definitely sense that she has that feeling that, Erin, that you're talking about, like this such a strong connection, but not being able to interact with it on your own, at will, basically, and it's
right.
Man, I mean, that's just, we've seen the documentary, Extraordinary, the seeding and stuff like that. So, we're not, like, super well versed in it, but we know about it. And man, like, I just couldn't even like imagine that, man. Like, even as a guy, it's like that's your seed, man. They just took your seed and did whatever they needed to do to it.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, if that ever happened to me, I would think that in my head I would have that same kind of mentality of, like, yeah, there's absolutely, one, nothing I can do about it, and two, maybe it is for a greater purpose.
Yeah.
In the future. I've even heard stuff saying that these hybrids are supposed to maybe bridge the gap between humans and the people that are doing the hybridization. Maybe it's to make it easier on humans. I don't know. We're all just guessing here, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we don't know.
We don't know anything.
We don't have a clue, and I think that it's healthier in our minds to say there's nothing we can do about it, because there really isn't. We can't stop it. We can't change it. Not in any way that I can think of. And so if I was to fret about it, I would make myself sick.
Right. Oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Oh, woo.
That's some heavy stuff, like it's, man, that's a lot.
It is a lot.
Yeah, it is a lot.
And the human brain's amazing. Like, that's a lot. So we're not going to worry about it right now.
Right.
Just put it over there, and maybe later we'll address it.
Right. It's almost like the mystery, the reason that like we don't know what the purpose is, almost makes everything a little bit more okay. Because if we knew the full plan, the whole agenda, it would be kind of, I don't know. As humans, we try to solve puzzles all the time. If we always knew the answer, like, what's the point of doing the puzzle? It's like, if we knew the purpose of this whole thing, would we just be like, well, this is dumb. I don't want to do this anymore. But I don't know. So I also had a thought. Have you guys heard of like the idea that our souls are intergalactic? It's not human or whatever, but our souls are kind of, it's just consciousness, and it can jump from one reality, one universe to the other. And our previous consciousness has signed a contract to be a human on Earth for a specific amount of time, and we've already agreed to go into this human life with amnesia, to not remember the past. But some people kind of bleed through, like that's why children sometimes remember past lives and things like that. Yeah. And it like kind of intertwines with reincarnation, where you're like, at the end of one life, you're like, hey, so do you want to ride again, or are you gonna go home? Like, and that's the idea. Like, yes, okay, I'll be another human again. Let's do it. And then you go back in. I just thought about that because it is kind of an alien thought, because that would mean
it is an alien thought. It actually is, and I, you hear about different experiencers getting downloads of information. Maybe it's quantum physics, maybe it's mechanics, maybe it's mathematics, maybe it's about ancient civilizations. Well, the information that I receive is about the soul and how it splits into separate lives, and that is been driven into my head, how to access other selves, how to work with, the idea of past life to me it's a misnomer, because there is no time.
Wow. Yeah.
So every life we have lived, past, present, future, other dimensions, whatever, is all simultaneously happening just in a different space-time location.
Ooh,
interesting.
I got chills.
Yes.
That's cool.
And so if they are just in a different space-time location, we actually have the ability to communicate with our other selves. We can help our other selves. We can heal and teach our other selves once we learn how to do that. And of course, this is at this level of density of reality. And once you raise up, that ascension idea of going up into a 5D reality, that's where the soul comes together as one.
Cool. I have a question, and it's more of kind of a thought. But when we're talking about the soul and this whole hybridization thing, maybe even dimensions. I mean, we're kind of packing a lot into this one right here, but to me, I'm kind of thinking like, what if these beings have advanced so far that maybe they have like become, in a way, become soulless? So instead of us thinking that maybe they come here and harvest DNA for biological reasons or whatever, what if maybe, like they're harvesting souls instead? It's a soul harvest for their next step of evolutionary process to them.
What about instead of soul harvest, it's soul infusion?
Ooh. I'll take that as well.
That sounds a lot less scary.
Yeah, it sounds like a nice fruity drink, like a sparkling water. Something palatable. I enjoy that a lot better, yes. Soul Infusion. That's going to be the name of my next jazz band.
Oh my gosh, yes.
I love that. Yes. Soul infusion. Yeah, let's go with that. I mean, that.
If your theory, this postulation of maybe they have evolved so far they no longer are connected to soul, if they create a hybrid child that is part human, part them, the human part is going to have that little bit of soul come in, and so
Correct.
that would be a soul infusion in a way.
Dang.
Yes.
It's interesting.
That almost makes me feel like, as humans, this is why these extraterrestrials are so interested in us, and we have so much potential that we just don't realize. It's like this. I think that's like every kind of Genesis story, right? For every superhero or comic book, it's like one day this kid or woman or man realizes they have this power. I think there's a reason why we find that so fascinating for fiction,
right?
Is because I think deep down we all wish that one day we wake up and I could climb walls, man.
Yeah, like we all individually feel this power that we can't access, but for some reason we feel like it's there.
Yeah,
and we don't know how to get to it.
Yeah,
definitely.
Yes, absolutely. I think that most of us feel that way.
Yeah, definitely.
Even us who can do more stuff, like I know that I have telekinesis.
Yes,
but I can't make anything move, and I don't get it.
Yeah, like you've seen yourself do it. Like you have memories of that, and it like, oh man. I mean, I think I used to have flying dreams a lot when I was a kid, and I would wake up, it's like so pissed. Like, dang it. But it sounds like these memories or these experiences, like you could move stuff. Like that's super cool. Yeah, I think that's awesome.
Just have to figure out how to do it.
So that's kind of.
Go on.
No, go for it. I was gonna segue somewhere else, but I want to hear what you have to say.
I was gonna say, when I was taught about the gravity manipulation and I was able to, it felt like flying. You never know, that could be where your flying dreams come from, right? We've already established that you probably have experiences yourself. So here we go. But so after that, I remember. And I don't even know why I did this. When I was in elementary school, I would tell my friend, pick me up. And she would pick me up and put me down. Then I would shift my weight just a fraction and say, do it again. And she couldn't. She could not lift me up.
Huh.
And then I'd relax and say, okay, pick me up. And she's like, what? And she picked me up and it was fine. And I would shift again and say, do it again. And she couldn't. So there was something I was retaining at that point in time about the gravity manipulation, but I don't know.
Whoa.
I don't know how.
Very interesting.
That's super cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's almost like that. I know this is, I'm just making this random connection, but you know those little bracelets that say that, like the power bracelet, and they say like push your arm up, and then you put on the bracelet, and now you like obviously it's the person like letting go, but
yeah,
it just reminded me of that.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah,
man, yes,
super cool.
So I was gonna go on to the. You had mentioned something about like we're talking about dimensions and things like that. You say that you have the I guess the ability or the know-how to I guess maybe shift dimensions a little bit, like you I don't know how to word it correctly, but you know kind of what I'm getting at.
I'm not sure if I can either, but yes, that is one of the things that I have been taught.
Right.
And
yes.
It was horrible. That night was horrible. I had to call in sick the next day. But it is all, when I say that I work as a shaman, that's what it is. I may be sitting here and looking at you and talking to you, but I can shift and go into different places, see different things, and do healings and things like that, bring little bits of soul back from somebody who, like in those different space-time locations, have lost something that can be returned.
Yeah.
And I do that a lot.
Wow, that's incredible.
Because I was taught, yeah.
That's super cool. I love that.
Whoa. So when you're doing this person, if something's missing, so you say that you can go to this different time of when they were alive, I guess, or whatever, and bring something back from a different them in a different time, in a different dimension, right? That's kind of what I'm understanding.
Yes.
Whoa.
Yes.
Whoa.
Or it could be them in the past.
Could be them in the past. Okay.
Right. So it could be anywhere. And so the way I determine if somebody is struggling with this is like, I have done everything I possibly can, Erin, and I just can't seem to move forward with my life. I can never find the love of my life, or I just cannot bring the money in that I need, and there's something that has them stuck and they can't move forward. And then I'd say, okay, it's time for you to be reintegrated. Basically, these little bits of self that have disappeared, we need to bring them back so that you can move forward.
Whoa.
Because you're done healing those bits. So oftentimes when there is trauma or there is pain and or scary things happen, maybe you're abused, whatever it is, a piece of your soul will detach. The piece that was damaged will detach from the body, and either somebody will pick it up and keep it, or it will just stay in that space-time location, and those little bits can be picked up and returned to the being, because it's time for them to heal and move forward.
Whoa. That, I'm just making all these connections as you're saying this. I almost think that with that line of thinking, I guess I've never really thought about it this way. Like trauma, you say maybe, like trauma can detach a part of a soul. And we just say soul because we don't know what better word to use, right? I mean, we don't really know what it is, but that could explain ghosts and other paranormal activity. I don't know.
It absolutely does. It absolutely does. At least in my perspective and my understanding of things, absolutely. Oftentimes hauntings are just like the when somebody passes and they ascend to a different dimension, there's a lot of bits of themselves that are too heavy to go. The sadness, the anger, the rage, the pain, the addictions, those things stay. And they can attach to people. They can stay in the, where they are at, and then you can interact with these little bits that are actually, sentient sometimes. And you can, as a person who is a medium or whatnot, you can return that bit to its owner. You can help remove it from the home or from a person if it's attached. Wow. Absolutely. That's exactly how I conceptualize it or see it, and I work with it.
Right. So, okay, question for you. Have you ever entered a room not knowing anything about it, and I think we've talked about this, Joe, but got chills and something's off about this room? Is that something that you work with currently? And I'm seeing you as like in a movie. I'm just picturing you going in between dimensions and walking into a specific room and picking up a piece of the soul and then all right, going back, and then boom, putting it back into the the person that you're working with. I'm just visualizing it. Is that kind of how it works?
Absolutely. That is how it works. However, it may not be my physical body that's walking into the room.
Right.
It may just be an astral body, because I very rarely actually go to a person's house and do that. I mean, I do, but I live in a small town, so there's not a lot of people. I don't advertise this very much. Well, now I guess I really can't get away with it anymore. People.
Well, the cat's out of the bag now.
Right, exactly, and that's why I titled the book "Dirty Little Secret," because this is hard to expose this, man. It's very hard to expose this.
Yeah, I do. I was going to ask you about the title. What can you maybe speak a little bit about the significance? I know you just referenced it, but maybe talk about the title a little bit, because the full title is "Confessions of an Alien Contactee, Dirty Little Secret." Could you maybe talk a little bit about the significance of that?
Yes, absolutely. As a contactee, as an experiencer, this is something that has been shunned. People have been laughed at, called crazy. I'm a clinical therapist. Who wants to go see a crazy clinical therapist?
Yeah.
It doesn't work that way. And so knowing that I have these experiences and this is who I am, but having to present myself in a completely different light on the daily, as the kids I work with would say,
justify that. I can't. And I got to a point, I think, when I started writing the book, that I can no longer do this. I cannot have this split life, this mask. That there's a whole chapter about the masks that you wear. And I can't do it anymore. And so I'm like, right, I'm going to have to spill the beans. I'm going to have to tell this dirty little secret and see what happens. And was I afraid I was going to lose my job? Yes, I was. But I couldn't. I just had to do it.
I'm so glad you did, because, I mean, man, it's, there's so much to unpack. I mean, Joe, you're like, you get onto one subject, there's so much.
There's so much.
Yeah.
And it definitely helps people too, we've been kind of, just listening to these stories and listening to people talk. It seems like, you even mentioned it in your book, a lot of these people, even if they don't want to be recorded, or they don't, they're like, I don't want to use my name. It helps so much to just get it off their chest, like they don't want to talk about it, but there's an occasion where maybe they do talk about it, and it just makes them feel good. To have that opportunity, and just to have somebody listen who doesn't think you're a wacko, right? And
absolutely,
and the tide is definitely starting to change. I can definitely see it. I mean, I've got friends who never even thought about an alien before, that have posted stuff on their page recently, or reached out to me and been like, hey, have you seen this? And it's like, oh yeah, I've seen that. That's really cool. It's just, I definitely feel like the page is definitely turning a little bit for that, and it's really good that more and more people are starting to kind of come out and tell their stories, because it's like, how can we expect a disclosure from like a major government or something, like high end like that, when it has nothing to do with them. It's all the experiencers themselves, that have the stories. That's where you're going to get the disclosure. That's where you're going to get the help. That's where you're going to get the information. It's from the people who are experiencing it, not from your government, not from people like me and Ben who've never, not that we know of.
We don't know.
Not that we know of, but, we're getting it from people like you, and that's what's so important.
Absolutely. And it is, at this point in my life, and I think the book was part of it, it is a drive. And I'm going to say that I'm probably not behind the drive. I am sure it is them. You have to get out. You have to talk. You have to keep pushing this. I mean, I'm exhausted. I work all day, and then I do radio shows at night. And it's like, okay, so when do I actually get to rest? But that's okay. Whatever. I need to do this because it's so incredibly important.
Right.
People who have these experiences need to know that they have support. They need to know that they're not crazy, and they need to know especially that they are not alone.
Right.
And if I can be one of those voices that get out there and say, hey, you're not alone, and if you need to, get a hold of me because it's okay. And absolutely feel the drive to do that.
I love it. And you're such an easy person to talk to as well. I'm just glad for that, because you never know. With as much stuff that has happened to you, and the way that you've been able to kind of overcome it and digest it in the way that you have is very respectable. I as someone that I myself, I don't know if I've had any experiences like that. Maybe I'll find out in a couple years, but. I mean, to know that you can go through this stuff and come out on the other end totally fine, and like, hey, we're all just trying to figure it out, and it's refreshing, and it's awesome. So it's great to. I thank you so much for coming on the show. I know it took a while to set all this stuff up. We're a little disorganized. It's just me and Joe, in our off time, making this show.
Right.
But
it's okay. In the off time, trying to get onto shows.
No. I mean, I'm super stoked that you reached out to us too. I had another little question for you. I've read through so many books this past month that I kind of mixed stuff up. Did you mention a My Labs experience in here?
I did, but you know what? Honestly, I didn't know what MyLabs was until the other day.
Okay.
What? Okay. So did you know the term?
No, I did not know the term. I did not know the term until I did a Leak Project interview, and then he posted it and sent me the link, and I was like, "What's MyLab?"
Awesome.
So I had to look it up. I was like, "Son of a gun!" So this really is a thing. Yeah.
Do you think you've had any experience like that?
From what I understand, the MyLab is military involvement, correct?
Right. Yes.
Right. Yes, I have. Yes, I have. And when I said, there's the really scary, horrible, awful things that have happened to me, those are the ones I mean.
That's what I wanted to get to right there. That's exactly what I wanted to get to. I was going to ask you, do you feel like there was a difference in your MyLab experience, your actual ET experience, and most people with these MyLab experiences, man, I mean, they seem horrible. They seem terrible.
They are awful. As I've sat and thought about, like, why were these things so different? Number one, there were humans involved. I saw humans, or at least human-looking hybrids. I don't know, but they look like us, and I was very upset. But why? Why is there a difference, and what was the agenda there? In the military type experience that I had, I was being induced labor with one of those hybrid babies, and now I'm sitting back and speculating that they knew that I was carrying one of these hybrid babies, and they took it.
Whoa.
And they took it. We don't know why, and we don't know what those hybrid babies are being used for.
Right.
What?
But I guarantee they are not being taken care of the way they are on the ships.
Oh.
Yes. That was another important part I wanted to kind of get to. Is it seems like a lot of the the cleaner work seems to be with the ETs. The dirtier work seems to be with this like human and ET mixed military agenda.
That doesn't surprise me, man.
Like the scars, and the holes in your body and stuff like that. It seems to be like really messy kind of work, like something a human would do. And the ET stuff, I mean, you can't find scars. A lot of times you'll just have like maybe a bruise or like a rash or something. But
and it fades. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's just it seems to be completely different. And this MyLabs thing is just, it's on a whole nother level. It's almost like its own. We're trying to figure out what's going on with the ETs, and now we have to worry about like our own people.
Yeah, because they're trying to figure it out too,
doing it to us.
Exactly, and that's exactly what I was about to say. They are really interested in what the ETs are doing too, and they have to know who we are if they are able to take us and know that, if they knew I was carrying, and they knew that they could induce, and that was extremely painful. Of course, labor hurts.
Yeah.
But I've never remembered any pain of labor on a ship environment.
Wow.
But you did experience pain. Sorry.
Yes. Oh my God. Yes.
With the MyLabs. Yeah. So, oh man.
Yes.
That doesn't surprise me. I don't know why, but it's just, maybe it's the nihilism in me, but like, man, leave it up to humans to kind of ruin a good thing and like take advantage of maybe possibly something that we don't fully understand yet, and they're just like, well, we want to know too, and they end up just hurting people.
I mean, we had a great discussion with Melinda about that, on how they may be working together, but these military people, they don't have what the ETs are interested in the first place. So the reason that they can't just ask these ETs, hey, what's going on? What are you doing? Is because they need the contactee. The contactee is the key to this whole thing. And so not only does the military want to know what the ETs are doing, but the military wants to know why certain people, the contactees, are so important to the ETs.
Yeah.
Because they just don't have the stuff, and the contactee does. And it pisses them off.
Pisses them off so much they don't care. They don't care if you're hurting. They don't care if you need help. They don't care.
And that's what I came out of with the experience that I put into the book, which was, giving birth and it just being excruciating. And there was a man in a military uniform with fatigues, and he had on like a lab coat and carrying a clipboard, and he was scanning the room. And there were hundreds of us women in these cots. They didn't even look sterile.
Wow.
You said cots?
Yeah, they were like military cots. It was not hospital beds, and it certainly wasn't a surgical table.
And that's different from the ship, which seems to be a little more sterile and better, I guess.
Yes. Well, I don't remember pain. I don't remember hurting. I remember like passing out and coming to and having a baby in my hands. That's all I remember on the ship.
Oh, man.
But that military guy was surveying the room, and I was trying to yell at him like, "Hey, can you help?" or whatever. And he, kind of like sideways glanced and just looked away really quick, like, "Oh God," and that feeling that I had when he just glanced over me and glanced away like I was nothing, that has never left me.
I can't even imagine. And the thought of, like, if you think about it, if this happens on any given night, there's hundreds of women that have been taken.
Yeah.
You know, just randomly.
Yeah.
And if you multiply that by however many days in a year, that's hundreds of thousands of women every single year. And we hear, 50 stories that we could probably like point to right now, but that's thousands, hundreds and thousands of women and men that this is happening to.
Yeah.
Right.
Wow. I just want to speak to the intricacy of your recounting of that, the subtleties. It doesn't sound. What I'm trying to say is like, I believe you 100%. Yeah. Like just the way that you describe that, it's like, I mean, how do you make something like that up? Like that's very specific,
right?
And I'm only saying this being like devil's advocate, right? Like sometimes on this show, I try to put myself in another person's kind of critical thinking mind, but also another detail that you mentioned shortly, and please speak to it if you can. But you said you woke up with a baby in your arms. That sounds to me like the sweetest thing ever. Like the aliens let you hold your baby.
Absolutely, and that's crucial. We have to hold the babies. We have to bond with the babies. We have to love on them and feed them and change them and just do the bonding that we can when we're with them, because apparently that's extremely important. And yeah, I've had several of these babies, and many of them are absolutely tiny, like thumb size. And of course, if they're taking it, we're estimating, and I've heard it many places, and my body has told me it's about 3 months gestation.
Wow.
Before you even look pregnant, before anything can happen, they're taking these babies, so they're absolutely tiny. And I've had some very bizarre dreams with these itty bitty little babies, and like, how do I put on a diaper on that thing? But you just coo and you play and you love them. And the last one of these experiences that I had was just a couple months ago, and I often named these babies, and this one was Chandra. Her name is Chandra, and I remember distinctly introducing her to 5 other children.
Wow.
Dang.
Yeah, and everybody smiling and being happy, and we were just like a little happy family. And then I woke up. So,
oh man,
damn. What sounds like, even though it sounds like they're trying. They, as in whoever's in charge of this program, they obviously know that humans, or maybe a hybrid, we need the mother. We need touch and just care and stuff. That makes sense to me.
Yeah.
It seems like they're trying, even though they might be doing something that we might see as evil. I don't know. Maybe you could look at it so many different ways. I mean, if you talk to somebody that was hardcore Christian, they might see these entities as like like demons and they're like harvesting whatever. Like,
Yeah.
but I don't know. To me, right now, it sounds to me that your experience wasn't the worst it could have been.
Right. It's definitely not. It definitely didn't have. Well, it seems to me at least that there was no consent involved.
Right. I'm not trying to take away.
Yeah, exactly. It wasn't like something that you were like, oh yeah, hell yeah, let's go do this.
Right. I'm sorry if they came off
But on the,
I'm sorry.
It was like, yeah, you totally liked it. Right? Like, no.
That is for another show.
Yeah. But no, I mean, like, yeah, it definitely seems like given the two options between the MyLabs option and the ET option, you would definitely prefer the ET option because it doesn't sound like the MyLab option even lets you hold or bond with the child, right?
No, there was no contact with the child after. No.
And those are the ones that end up in Stranger Things, right?
Dude.
It's kind of a distinction.
Oh my gosh.
There you go, and there's your full circle.
Yeah. No, I mean that's just mind blowing. It absolutely blows my mind. Absolutely blows my mind. Have you ever seen the documentary Love and Saucers?
No.
I wish I could remember that man's name right now. He tells a story about he lost his virginity to an alien, and he David Huggins, that's it. And he actually like fell in love with this alien and had a lot of babies. And he didn't, come to this realization until later in his life. But they started appearing to him again and again. And one evening he decided that he was going to set up a vase with some flowers. And if she came to him again that night, that he would give them to her. And if they were gone the next day, then he knew that it was real. Well, the next day they were completely gone. And apparently they had taken him, kind of like you. He said, I would go to sleep and I would be able to go to this place. And, he wasn't technically supposed to be there, but it was almost like they were trying to figure out how to help the babies. And by him being there, he was able to help all the babies by touching them, which, relates to your story and so many other stories on how these babies need that connection. They need that touch. And, on the surface, when you just see this, if you know nothing about, the hybridization program or abductees or anything, if you were to just watch this, you would think it was complete lunacy. But, the more that we dive into this and we start to find out that, just like you said, these babies, they need that touch. Yeah. And this man's story, it becomes a complete and total reality, because he's almost telling the same story that the women are, just on the opposite side.
Right. That's amazing. I'm going to have to watch this.
It's called Love and Saucers, and he actually, when he started recalling his memories, he started painting pictures. He's got some pictures, that he's painted of the actual being that, he's seen. He said that there was always, a mantid being in the room with them at all times. He would always show up. But ever since he was a child, he had these experiences and didn't start to realize it until later in his life. So yeah, it's a really interesting documentary. I would say definitely check it out. It's definitely interesting. But yeah,
have you ever seen a mantid alien before, Erin?
I suspect that I have. I think that may be the being that inserted the implant into the roof of my mouth when I was 7. However, I was so afraid of him, I don't recall what his face looked like. I know that he was very, very tall and thin, very long arms and legs.
Is he the one that had the mandibles like on his mouth?
Yes. Yeah. They were like moving mouth parts, and I suspect that was a mantid, but I don't know for sure because I just cannot pull that up in my mind.
Right. Yeah.
Because I'm still too terrified of it, or like I say, it's too alien, and I cannot.
Yeah, definitely
cannot fathom what it was that I was seeing, and I believe that was the moment where the PTSD started.
for me. However, I did a show when I was at Sunday, and it was a couple of therapists that were talking to me, and they said, if you were that afraid of that being at that point in time, then you probably encountered him before. Let's explore that. Let's pretend that you met him before, and my mind is shut down. Zoop. No, we're not going there.
Oh, man.
No,
Whoa.
not going there. And so I thought, oh, crap, they could be onto something here.
Yeah.
Definitely.
It's almost like, that innate fear of snakes. For a lot of people, it's like when they're kids, they were very afraid of snakes, and it's just like epigenetics. I wonder if that has something to do with it.
Passed down through generation. Be scared of snakes because you don't know what they're going to do to you.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, that's very interesting.
And that is that the implant that was the biological implant, right, on the roof of your mouth?
Yes.
Yeah, yes. That was super interesting to me because I've heard things about how the ETs have started to switch from these like metal kind of rockish implants into a more biological implant because we've figured out how to detect and spot their implants. And I found that to be pretty interesting that, that's the first case that I've heard of like a more biological type of thing being implanted into a person.
Right. And I didn't, is it just like an encasing? Is that it? Is it nanotechnology? What was it? Was it so that my body wouldn't reject it? I don't know. Was it my own DNA made in a petri dish that was coded in a certain way? I don't know.
I want to know more. So how did you come to realize that you had this implant?
That was through regression. I had hypnotic regression. That was the first hypnotic regression I had. I've only done 2.
With Yvonne Smith, right?
Yvonne Smith, yeah. And that was here in Roswell when she came for the UFO festival. I've gotten to know her because of that. And it took me a few years, but I finally said, all right, let's do it. And I did a session with her. And that experience there when I was 7 is what came forward.
And you said you've never really looked into it further, like going to the dentist and stuff like that. You've never had it checked out or thought about removing it or anything, right?
Oh, you kidding? I don't want to go to the dentist. No. Because it reminds me of that moment because I was in a dentist-like chair and I hate the dentist and I need to go, but I'm not gonna.
Oh man.
Oh my. I understand that.
That was kind of the same way with me. When I was little, I didn't like going to the eye doctor. I wear glasses. When they would shine that light in my eye, all I could think about was that part in Fire in the Sky with Travis Walton, where they put the thing in his eye, and then come to find out later on that was embellished and like wasn't really true. Coming from Travis, but yeah, it was always a thing. Like you can make that association with the dentist or the eye doctor or like your regular doctor or your gynecologist or whoever it is that you have to come across. Somebody's dealing with these experiences,
fooling with your body.
Yeah, it's easy to see how that PTSD could really start to come up in these what other people would seem to be otherwise normal interactions.
Right. Oh yeah. I have a very hard time going to the doctor. I feel sorry for all of my doctors because I have to explain to them, listen, I don't trust you and I'm not going to trust you and I'm really sorry, but you're going to have to deal with me.
Yeah.
And, as soon as they take my blood pressure, like, are you okay? I'm like, no, I'm freaking out.
You're like, how much time do you have?
Like, I gotta go.
Yeah, dang.
Seriously.
Yeah. I've never thought about that. Yeah. So like, abductees, experiencers, visiting the doctor, the most to I guess to most people that haven't experienced something like that wouldn't seem too stressful, but yeah, that makes sense why it would cause a lot of stress and anxiety if you have these memories, or even if they're just buried down in your mind. I wonder.
Absolutely. I mean, that's there is PTSD for you. Your mind may have covered it up, but your body remembers.
Wow. Yeah. It's like, oh man, yeah. It's such a a mind melting thing. It almost kind of makes me think of the reason what you told the story earlier, Erin, about the Greys entering your room, and you had this moment of euphoria that you've never since been able to achieve. It almost makes me think like the reason that you have, or most experiencers have these moments of freaking out because, hey, yeah, last time somebody messed with my body, it was an alien. It's like they know that you've been through this traumatic experience, so they give off some kind of frequency or some, maybe emit some kind of aerosol. I don't know how they would do it, but they try to calm you down as much as possible. It's like laughing gas.
I never thought about that. I thought they were just really nice people.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, did I just ruin like them?
They do it with mind bullets.
Mind bullets. But so the only reason I say maybe that's I could totally be so wrong, because who knows, right? But the only reason
very well could be.
Yeah, it could be, but I could be wrong. The only connection I'm thinking about is of stories that I've heard of reptilian extraterrestrials giving off a vibe, like a very negative vibe, and they do it on purpose to intimidate you. I don't know if you've ever heard of that, but
I haven't paid a lot of attention to reptilian information just because I haven't had any experiences that I can recall with them, so I don't know.
Yeah. Do you recall any, like, I know it's very like scattered recollection and just trying to piece all this together, but do you have any like sensory recollection? Like, do you remember smells or like the way things felt, or this sense of the occasion, you know what I'm saying? Like, do you remember any of that?
Yeah, I have several memories of different things. Like the smell itself is I have a memory of very earthy. Like if you were just to dig your hand in the dirt and pick it up and smell it.
Nice.
That sort of smell. Not necessarily pleasant, but not unpleasant at the same time. Kind
of like when you turn your air conditioner on for the first time, and it's got that earthy smell to it.
Yeah, exactly. That kind of smell.
Wow.
I associate with the beings. A tactile memory I have is walking across one of the floors, and it felt like going over AstroTurf. A little prickly.
Whoa.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Whoa, that's cool. Yeah.
Maybe they golf on their off time.
Like, yeah, dude, they're walking across the green.
Typical doctors, experimenting all day, and then when they're off, they golf.
Yes.
That's
ridiculous. So awesome.
Wow, that's interesting. Like a type of turf grass. That's super interesting. That's the first time I've heard of anything like that. That's cool.
I just happened to be barefoot. That's and of course that was pulled out through regression, that sensation.
Do you have really any, like you have like certain memories of being on a ship. Do you know if there's any like specifications? Like, was this ship in space somewhere? Was this ship under the water in the ocean on Earth? Was it underground, maybe in a bunker somewhere? I mean, do you have any like location specificities, or do you, the best of your knowledge, you just remember a ship?
The only two times I could tell you where I knew where the ship was were the two times that I had the regressions. The first time, the ship was in the sky above my house. I don't know how far up, but I went into a beam up into the ship above the home. And the second time, the ship had descended and landed, and we were boarded.
Oh wow! And so one of these experiences, was that the one where you went through the ceiling as a young kid?
Yes, the one where the ship was up in the sky. That's where I went through the ceiling.
Man, that description of like your atoms, like going through the atoms of the house, was like, it gave me chills almost, because it's like you always hear the stories of like them walking through the walls. There's no point in locking your doors. They're just gonna walk through it, and then for them to be able to give you that same ability, still, as a human, you're not an ET, you're not like a superhero or anything, but the ability that they have to be able to give you the ability for your atoms to just travel through a solid object is incredible to me.
Yeah, and that's not the first time, you know.
Wow.
And it's always fascinating. Of course, as that was through regression, I was able to spend the time just feeling it and describing it to myself. And, you know, through recordings and all this, I've been able to retain it. And wow, it was just a very interesting experience.
Have you ever had the opportunity to maybe talk to somebody like, you know, just like about the experience we just talked about? Like, have you ever had the opportunity to sit down with a scientist and be like, hey, is there a scientific explanation between sliding atoms through a solid object? Is there any type of physics that, you know, that we know of? Because we always talk about how like atoms are just full of empty space, and theoretically you could move this empty space through empty space that is a wall, right? you know,
But no, I've never sat down with anybody. No,
because it
would be fascinating to do that.
Yeah, it's a very interesting, like, just, you know, I've said it a million times on this show, you know, like, magic is just science we don't understand, right? And it's like one of those things where, like, the experiencers have so much going on that you would think that legit scientists would hop all over. Because, I mean, we're trying to do this in theoretical physics right now. Why aren't we talking to people like you who've actually went through a wall? You know what I'm saying? Like, it would seem like if you wanted to explain, or, you know, not saying like hook you up to wires and experiment on you, but like if you wanted a subject that's been through this, maybe your contactee is the person you want to talk to. But there's so much, like you said, taboo around the subject still, for right now, that, you know, it does put people's careers in jeopardy. So I understand why, but at the same time, I don't understand why, you know. And it's such a conundrum. Yeah. But no, if you ever get the chance, you should definitely see if you can chit chat with somebody about that, and then and let us know, because I definitely am interested in it.
I would be asking questions if I were okay. So there's a joke. I don't know, Erin, if you how long you've been listening to the podcast, but we call ourselves Dr. Scientists because we're like, we don't know anything. So we're just like,
it's ironic. I don't know if you got that.
Yeah, but as a Dr. Scientist, I would be curious, as Joe's speculating, like asking you specific questions, like when you experienced walking through a wall, were there smells? Did you hear a humming noise? Was there heat involved? Like, I don't know. I bet a physicist would have way better questions.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and I don't even know. I would have to probably, if I was put back into regression to that time, boy, the information you could get out.
So how was your experience with regression? You mentioned that you did it twice. Is it were you nervous about it at first?
I was very nervous. I didn't know what to expect. I didn't really understand what hypnosis was. I didn't know, like, I brought somebody with me because I didn't know if I'd be able to drive after. I didn't want to be a zombie or something. Yeah. And what I can tell you is that before having hypnosis, I was not sleeping. I was terrified. I tried to sleep with the lights on for months. I was in a very, very disturbed place as far as my PTSD was. Just in a state of just utter terror all the time. They're going to get me. They're going to get me. And after that, I slept fine. And wow. I continued to sleep fine. She was able to help me come to terms with things enough that it was no longer prominent in my mind. It's like, you're going to be okay, and now you can sleep. And it really helped. And that's how hypnosis can help with PTSD. You reliving the experience in a state of relaxation is what you have to do.
Wow. Yes.
And it really, really helps.
And you yourself, I mean, you made a career change to become. You went to college and you ended up becoming a psychologist and helping people. Now you deal with marriage counseling and stuff like that, and family counseling, exactly. Right? Just trying to help people out.
I was a librarian. Yeah, I was a librarian, and then the idea, and I'm sure I was again led to it. And this has happened time and time again in my life. I was happy as a librarian, just happy as a clown. But all of a sudden I had to go back to school. And I didn't know why. And I had to go back to school, and I have to go into counseling. I have to be a counselor. And it was one of those drives, just like my drive now to talk about these things. And so I became a counselor. Took forever. I'm still working on licensure. I'm not completely finished with the process, but I've also gone and studied at the Milton Erickson Foundation and have become pretty, I'm not going to say proficient, but I have become pretty well versed in hypnosis myself. So I can use clinical hypnosis in therapy. I can work with others. I am waiting somewhat patiently as Yvonne figures out a way to do trainings for hypnotherapists who want to work specifically with contactees. I don't want to delve into that stuff with anybody until I have that kind of training.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I could definitely see why it could potentially be very harmful if you don't do it correctly. And so that's definitely good that you want to make sure that you get all the training and
you don't want to incept somebody.
Yeah. You don't want to put them like 5 levels deep and
oh my God.
That wouldn't be very good. But man, I think that's such a beautiful thing, with everything that's happened to you and your story and the way that your life has kind of played out. And guys, definitely check out Dirty Little Secrets. There's so much more to the story. There's so much more in the book, but that's just such a beautiful, kind of way to end it. I think is we come to the end of now. You yourself want to help people, not only not in your position, but also in your position. That's such a beautiful thing.
That's
Boom, we can hear
there
you now.
Go. Yes. That was so weird. Oh my God.
Okay, we figured it out.
Okay, what happened?
We have some neighborhood aliens that are messing with us.
I don't know. Yeah, that very well could be.
Was it you? Don't you mess up electronics from time to time?
Yeah.
We're gonna blame it on you then.
Oh, sure. Thanks.
Oh man, yeah.
Thanks.
Oh, wow, golly. Now I'm totally off my game now. I don't even remember where I was going with this. I know we were wrapping it up.
You're telling me how wonderful I was.
Yes, that's exactly right. We're definitely telling you how wonderful you are. Yeah. And I know we were wrapping that up, so it was just such a strange time for that to happen. But
that was weird.
Yes, I know that there's so much more to your story, and like I said, I just think it's a great thing that you decided to set out and help people that are dealing with these same kind of issues as well with other issues. So that makes you 110% cooler. It's just been awesome. Guys, like I said, check it out. Dirty Little Secrets. Erin's amazing. This book is amazing. You guys all need to check it out. Erin, is there any specific places that you want people to check out your book? Do you have any way that people can maybe, contact you, or how do you operate?
Yeah, the book is available on Amazon. There's both a paperback version and an ebook right now. About to start recording for the audiobook. That's going to be interesting. And then, of course, on Facebook, if you can look up my name and contact me that way. You can, Dirty Little Secret itself has a page. You can contact me through that. I've also got a website that I am partners with the little boy that was in the room or walked by the room when I was 4. He and I actually share a website.
Wow.
Yeah, so we've got really crazy videos that we pick up on cameras. He has one outside. I have one in my bedroom, which is kind of weird, but things that happen in the night. Those videos are up there.
if you are interested in any of the healings that I do or the readings that I do, or just want to send us a message, all that can be done at the website, and that is www.peoplesoutterdimension.net.
Awesome.
Yeah,
awesome.
We'll add that info to the YouTube when we post this on YouTube. Yeah, I don't know if you know that, but yeah, we're putting it on YouTube and Spreaker and all that. So we'll add that information too for anybody that's listening and wants to check out the website.
Awesome, that's great.
Yeah, and we'll send you a link to this episode, and if you want to share it to any of your groups or anything like that, feel free. Our stuff is your stuff only because it's your story in the first place. So we want you guys to have everything that we do. So it's all you. But Erin, once again, I mean, this was just absolutely amazing. Thank you so much for reaching out to us. Again, I apologize it took us so long to get to you. We've had so much stuff, lately. It's just been a little crazy around here, but I'm so glad we got to this.
Yes.
Absolutely. Well, I had fun, and if you ever want me back, just let me know.
Oh yeah.
I had a blast.
Absolutely. Your story is still continuing to this day, so we're definitely gonna have you back and get a little more into this and see where you're at in the future.
Awesome.
Well, hey, we'll talk to you later. All right.
All right. Sounds good.
Bye.
Thanks, guys. Bye.
Nice.
Cool, man. That was freaking awesome, dude.
Bro.
Yeah.
Awesome, man.
I told you, man. Her
Shit.
story. There's just so much to it. I mean, there's so much. She could speak for 30 seconds, and there's just so much to unpack in that 30 seconds, and it's like,
yeah,
we could do this for hours.
I know.
It's just not enough time.
Right. And like we're pushing that 2-hour mark right now, but it's almost like and I think maybe our listeners maybe need a little break too, because there's so much that we talked about in this episode. Like, we just have to have her back on to really dive into, maybe even start any of the other stories that she has to tell.
Oh, definitely.
But yeah, I feel like at the beginning, like I just, not knowing as much as you do about her story, I don't know. I wanted to know everything at once, but I'm sorry I asked that question like twice. Like, how many aliens have you seen? but
wait, you didn't hear me. How many aliens have you seen? By the way, hey, before you go, I want to know how many aliens have you seen?
Yeah, dude, like,
that's a new shirt.
How many aliens have you seen? That's a great shirt. Yes,
a new shirt.
It's like a art cartoon of my face, like looking, like one eye's open.
And then you're looking at you with a straight face.
Yeah, it's totally God damn it, Ben.
Oh, it's so funny.
I only had like 3 beers too.
Yeah, me too. That was so great though, man.
Yeah,
I absolutely loved her story. And
we haven't even scratched the surface, I feel like.
No, not really. I mean, we kind of went through the book a little bit.
Yeah.
It wasn't chronologically, but there's definitely at least 7 more stories in here that we didn't even get to.
Yeah.
And we talked about the additional time that she had, but she's also had missing time. I mean, it's just, traveling with friends. It's happened to not only her, but her former husband and a couple of her friends. I mean, she's had issues in a car. I mean, the beings, like, in the road, in the face, like the stuff that I was telling you about earlier.
Yeah.
It's just, dude, there's so much in this book, but I knew she had to get on to her she has another show tonight, so I wanted to give her time to kind of cool down and prepare for that.
That was smart.
Not have to tell the story and then go to the next one and tell the story again and be like, look, dude, I was abducted by aliens. Like, I'm tired of telling. I told the story 3 times already.
I told you already.
But yeah, she was so awesome. I'm so glad we finally got to have her on.
Yeah, seriously.
I mean, that's
pretty. I mean, yeah, we got to have her back on.
Yep.
But okay, so next week, who do we have next week before we sign off completely? Jason Guillemette. Jason Guillemette.
Jason Gillette.
Guillemette. Guillemette.
Huilamente.
Oh my God! I bet you that's how you say it. I just never said it out loud. I haven't said it out loud yet. Jason Huilmentes. Yeah. So I can't remember. I should have done this before, but like, he has his own podcast.
Yeah, he
right?
runs his own podcast, and he's kind of listened through some of our shows, and he's gonna kind of, you know, we wanted to promote his show.
UAP Studies Podcast.
Yeah, and it's pretty good. It's more on the more scientific side of things, trying to weed out the bullshit with the real stuff, you know. So that's kind of his mission.
Yeah. And also it might not be the next episode, right? Because we might do something else for our 60th episode.
It's possible. We already have him scheduled, so I think we should just do it.
Okay.
But, yeah, I mean, I'm excited.
I was thinking we could do like an hour of us just making fart noises for our 60th episode. We could record it right after this.
Somebody's going to listen to it.
Dude, I guarantee you somebody's going to listen to it. And I mean, some of you might hate it and some of you might like it. But I can make a lot of really great fart noises.
It's hilarious because if we did do an hour of just fart noises and we put it up on YouTube, you know somebody's going to comment and be like, these guys just play too much. Like, like they're being serious about it. Like, these guys, like their jokes aren't funny.
They're like laughing too much and they think they're fucking funny and they're not.
It's like, yeah, I know. We just made a full hour episode of farting noises.
Yeah.
On purpose.
Yeah.
Because it was funny. Yeah, it was. And then the rest of the comments will be like, that was so funny. There's always that one person.
There's always the one sour little wet napkin.
Way too serious. Oh man, that's so funny, dude.
Yeah.
Well, all right, man. That was a good episode.
Yeah, dude.
Definitely a good episode. Definitely gonna have her on again. And guys, once again, don't forget to go check out the book. Dirty Little Secret.
I'll keep you my dirty little secret.
But don't let that throw you off. This is a way cooler Dirty Little Secret.
Intense.
I promise. This was such a good book. It was such a good book.
I love it, dude. I love it.
All right, man.
All right, bro.
Well, this was another episode of UFO Garage. Talk to you next time.
Goodbye.
Peace.